What's going on, Clippers fans? The Clippers lose in New Orleans 127 to 120. Thanks for hanging out. I am Chuck Mockler doing a quick post-game hang because this is the game that Kawhi Leonard played, and this is the game that the Clippers really needed to win on this back-to-back. I don't know. I feel some type of way about losing this game. I don't feel good about it. This is a game the Clippers, and I'm going to call me crazy, I feel like they should have won. The Pelicans shot, I think this has to be their best 3-point game of all of very recently. Yeah, here we go. Justin Rousseau tweeted, Pelicans shot 54.8% on 31 3-point attempts tonight. Their third best percentage in franchise history for a game. Their their best is also against the Clippers. I just don't understand. I think Alex Webb, you got it right. It's the Noya voodoo. This was insane. This is a game that the Clippers didn't play their best in. I'm not going to pretend that, that the Clippers were firing on all cylinders and this should have been a blowout or something like that. But 53% on 55%, on 31 attempts is just insane from the Pelicans. And I know that as Clippers fans, we've been dealing with, teams getting really hot against us and whatnot. It had cooled off a little bit, but tonight it was just insane. Alex Webb again saying we typically play better versus Miami in past years. I don't know. I think they might go 0-2 on this back-to-back. Chat, if you're here, convince me otherwise. But Kawhi's out tomorrow. There's no Norm. There's no Ben Simmons. Like, tomorrow is a very difficult game. Tonight was a hard game, obviously, too. But losing this game hurts my heart a bit just from the conference record. Yeah, it's just tough. I like what Jeremy Mormon is saying. This is the game I wanted Ben Simmons. Absolutely. The Ben Simmons loss, for people who didn't watch the first game of Ben Simmons or anything like that, and I'm not blaming you for not doing that. That's fine. Ben Simmons takes a lot of relief off of James Harden when it comes to initiating the offense, and he takes a lot of relief, as Jeremy Mormon is talking about here, with just size, right? Like, I love Nick Batum. He's an older player. Like, it's hard for Nico. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, right? Like, he took 9 shots this game, which is probably more than he should take. And this is not a disrespect to Nico. That's just how the offense works when guys are down. Trank Addict, I know it's Trance Addict, said, haven't we been weak at defending the 3-ball this season? If a team will go off, I won't be surprised against us. Let me do some real-time stat pulling for you. We can go ahead and look at this. The Clippers, in terms of opponent 3-point percentage, this is actually a good thing. Thank you for bringing this up, Jeremy. The Clippers, in terms of opponent 3-point percentage on the year, are top 10. They are 9th. Opponents are shooting 35% from 3 against the Clippers this year, which is the 9th worst or best if you're a Clippers fan, worst if you're not a Clippers fan. So we haven't been weak at defending the 3-ball. We've been top 10 at defending the 3-ball. You can't be a top 5 defense in terms of rating defending the 3-ball poorly. It's not a knock on the question, Trans Addict. Thank you. But it seems like that. Watching these last couple of games, it seems like that's just been the norm, but it hasn't been. Miles Johnson, 10-20. The Clippers are 10-20 in their last 30 road games. They're bad away from into it. Coupled with this, Miles, the stat, is they're 10-20 in their last 30 road games. They're also, 21-22 in conference play. Like, this is a team. I guess if you're coming to the Chuck only post game live stream, you get a little more negativity. I don't know. Someone gave me a buzz ball earlier for the first time, and it's a nightmare. The Clippers are 21-22 in conference. The Kings have a better record in conference. The Mavericks have a better record in conference. The Suns have a worse record by 1 game. That's it for who has a, like, there's only one team within the play-in who has a worse record in conference than the Clippers. Conference play has been an issue all year. Conference and on the road, this game was a perfect mix of that. It's a great point, Miles. Lalo Contreras, what up, Charles? What up, Lalo? Miles Johnson. Again, do you think as Zoo gets more involved on offense, he's getting worse on defense? Teams finishing around the rim easily, and he's getting killed and dropped recently. No. I don't think it's Zoo's fault that he gets killed and dropped. That's what he's told to play. If you play drop against Luka Doncic or someone who's shooting a bunch of threes, that's just how that shit goes. Did we see what happened? Was it the third quarter where things started to kind of turn around for the Clippers? And who was involved? Brian Seaman said it on the broadcast. It was the third quarter. And Brian Seaman said, every single possession has gone through Zubac, and it's worked. He had 1 field goal attempt in the first, I believe. Something like that. It's frustrating. I think tonight you had the anomaly of a wild 3-point shooting night from the Pels. We can't pretend that. We won the field goal attempt battle. We basically broke even on free throws, but they made 3 more threes because they hit 55% of them. It's insane. The Clippers didn't even turn that ball over. We won turnovers by 8. Like, these are things the Clippers should be taking advantage of. So Lalo is saying, I'm bummed, man. Just when it feels like we're turning a new corner, we get met with a brick wall to the face. I think with this Clippers team, you look at their record. They're 35-30. They're a 5,300 team, right? People talk about 500, whatever. When you are this close to 500, and especially in conference play, where they're 21-22, at home, it's so funny. So conference play, the Clippers are 21-22. Away from home, they're 13-20. Shout out to the Intuit Dome. They're 22-10 at home. Shout out to the Wall. Shout out to everyone who is doing their thing at the Intuit Dome, because that has, looking at the standings, carried the Clippers a little bit. This is a 500 team for all intents and purposes, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I said that they would probably be like a 6 seed or something, or high play-in team or something like that. When you're a 500 team, as Lalo is talking about here, when you feel like you're turning a corner as a 500 team, it means you're playing like a 750 team. And then you turn that corner and you get hit with that brick wall to the face, and you're a below 500 team. So this is the purgatory, right? You know what I mean? Like, this is the purgatory of the season, where the rotation is in flux, as we saw. Kawhi's still getting back to 100%, which I hope that happens soon. Kawhi carried this team in the first quarter. Kawhi was phenomenal this game offensively. 29 points from Kawhi. He did everything for the most part, especially early. The Clippers were so bad in the first quarter. I think Kawhi had 9 in the first, and we needed all of it. This could have been a damn nightmare for this team, but Kawhi held it together offensively, which was great. He was +1. Like, you look at and this is where the rotation crunch happens, right? If Bogdan's not shooting well, which he hasn't really been, the bench in this game was, this is brutal, was 3 for 17 from 3. I know part of that was Kobe Brown garbage time. For real purposes, Bogdan, Amir, and Derek Jones combined to go 3 for 12 in this game from 3. Which is not sustainable. You can't. And again, this is because of a roster crunch. Derek Jones still had 11 points. Derek Jones was effective in this game. We need his athleticism. We need that kind of thing. But when things are just breaking down, just availability-wise, this is what you get. No Norm, no Ben Simmons. Everyone else has a more focus on him. Miles saying, L. Frank failed to get an adequate Zubac up as malpractice. Eubanks clearly sucks. I'm going to be honest. What pick of the backup center litter did Lawrence Frank have? I don't want to talk about the Isaiah Hartenstein versus John Wall thing. I don't want to talk about it right now. We understand that was a major failure. I will chalk that up to a loss on L. Frank's point. But it's not like the backup center market is full of these. Not everyone, if you're the Kings, you don't get Jonas Valanciunas as your backup center. Backup center is kind of a crapshoot. Backup center feels like backup quarterback in the NFL, where there's like 3 really good ones, and then everyone else is kind of a crapshoot. If you're with me on that, chat, I feel like someone has to have my back in that. F is saying Bogey gets headhunted when he's out there. Yeah, Bogey is very bad at defense. You are not wrong about that. Him and Amir Coffey played. They both played over 15 minutes, and they had the overwhelming plus minus. They were minus 20 and minus 19, respectively. That's fucking crazy. And what's difficult is games like this overshadow a performance that Kawhi had and that James Harden had. James Harden had 17 assists. Yes, he had 6 turnovers. That's annoying as hell. He had 17 assists, but the three-point shooting wasn't there. This is what's compounded on this. You know what I mean? This is why things are more difficult. Because you need performances that Kawhi and James Harden gave, but you need them to be perfect when guys are out. And they were not perfect tonight. And Kawhi was pretty damn close to perfect. I'm not going to throw him under the bus at all. Zoo should have had more shot attempts. Zoo should have had more than 12 shot attempts. Chris Dunn should not have had 11 shot attempts. I love what Chris Dunn does on defense. I'm not discrediting that at all. This game was the perfect example of why Chris Dunn and Nico Batum moved to the bench when Norm Powell and Derek Jones Jr. are both back. And I don't think that's not a knock on Nico. It's not a knock on Chris Dunn. But the team looks a lot different when the full starting lineup is healthy. And I don't even think I'm saying that. Like, that's not even that crazy of a take, I don't think. This is a team that needs Norm, right? Like, this, obviously, he's an efficient, highest scorer on the team. And when he's there, it makes obviously more sense to start Derek Jones Jr. So you have Harden, Norm, Kawhi, Derek Jones Jr., Zubac. That's a great starting 5 for where the Clippers are at in, context. But tonight, you see, when shots get funneled Chris Dunn's way, it's not ideal. I love Chris Dunn. You can't tell me that that's not true. And I love Nico, but he's not a starter. Nico's not a starter in this. Again, no disrespect. Nico playing 28 minutes off the bench is so much more valuable than 28 minutes starting. And he does what this team needs. I don't know. We're seeing the roster crunch now, is what we're seeing. Okay. Lalo asking, do you think we fall to the 9 or 10 seed or stay in the 8 spot? It's hard to think we can actually move up to 6 with Minnesota and Golden State looking solid. So we have the tiebreaker over the Warriors. So best case scenario, again, is that we're kind of tied record-wise with the Warriors. We get the 6th seed, I think. So I think you're right. Clippers are a game and a half out of the Timberwolves. We don't have the tiebreaker there. They're a game and a half ahead of the Kings. Thank God they got the tiebreaker the other night. But I think, man, it hurts. But I think we're hovering around 7-8. Like, I think it's 7-8. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I think that's where we're at. Sure, I'm getting work chats. Hershey Sensei saying, I missed the Westbrook era. Was that an era? I don't know if that was an era. You can also just watch the Nuggets. Things are going very well for Westbrook over the Nuggets. Not having Westbrook is not why this team is losing. But I appreciate this sentiment. So, Louis Lemieux saying it's over, Ballmer, start the rebuild. I don't think people fully grasp what that doesn't work like that. Personally, I think if the Clippers could get a first-round pick for Kawhi Leonard, they would have already done that. If you could get one first-round pick that doesn't have some crazy protections, I think the Clippers would have already done that. Secondly, the books open up after next season, and Ballmer does not want to pay the repeater tax. It's not the luxury tax that he's worried about. It's the repeater tax, which makes the cost of this roster, which is not a championship roster, go up by I think $200 million, which is insane. I know personally, all billionaires figure your shit out, give us regular people some money back. If I were a billionaire, the last thing I would want to spend $200 million on is a team that's not going to win the championship. So the rebuild, as frustrating as it is, how does it start? You don't trade away Zoo because he is the best building block this Clippers team has after this Harden Kawhi era. You can't trade Kawhi Leonard for a first-round pick. Or I think they maybe would have done it. And I say a first-round pick in the sense of not something that's top 26 protected. And you just got to ride out Norm. You just got to ride out what's going on with Norm Powell. Maybe next year they trade Norm. Maybe Norm gets a hot start early and the Clippers flip Norm next year. That is something I could see happening. So they can't start it. What rebuild do you want them to start? They don't have picks. If the Clippers had a first-round pick for 25, 26, which sounds like fake years, there's not really a doubt in my mind that they would do that. We're trying to be competitive and then just tank and get a good pick. But they cannot, they quite literally cannot start a rebuild. Yeah. So that's where we're at. You know what I'm saying? Miles Johnson saying trade Harden and Norm in the offseason. Well, if you thought this team was not very fun to watch this year, you can't be upset if they trade Harden and Norm in the offseason and then they are worse in 25-26. Because any rebuild, the team is horrible. And it's a one-year rebuild. The books open up 26-27. So it's a one-year rebuild. We get the soft, whatever. But that's where they're at. And I'm not saying it was the right decision, but they can't do some kind of weird rebuild. I was given this buzzball. I didn't buy it. The Clippers cannot trade Zubac. I have seen the trade Kawhi, trade Norm ideas. And for the most part, if they can get a good return, I'm not against it. You cannot trade Ivica Zubac. He plays every single game. He has become a double-double and maybe 5-assist guy. Zubac is a guy that every team would want, but also has this weird thing where what is Zoo's trade value? He becomes an unrestricted free agent when he's 30, which means that he gets a crazy contract for what he does. You can't trade Zoo. And we love Zoo. Adam Oslin over on Clippers Talk, he loves Zoo. But you can't trade him. You can trade Kawhi and Norm for sure, but you can't trade Zoo because you need at least one consistent guy during the rebuild. And if you trade Kawhi, who's not consistent in terms of availability, and you trade Norm, who's very good, but I can't imagine that next year Norm is as good as this year's Norm, you can't trade a consistent double starting center. I know it's a new NBA, but they can't trade Zubac. Who is the center for this team? They've tried a lot of different centers, Kato, and it's not blind fandom. He has like the second most doubles in the league, and he's one of the best rim protectors. What are we talking about? Who should play center for this team other than Zoo? Name me a center who can play 78 games per season, not bitch about his role, which is a very big deal in a locker room full of future Hall of Famers and established guys. Who is the center for this team? Send me some answers. We will talk about them. Blind fandom for Zoo. Have you been watching the team? He's the only quasi-consistent guy. Louis, I'm sure there's a GM out there who would give up a first for Kawhi. What GM? The Clippers have proven that Kawhi does not stay healthy. Right? He was phenomenal tonight. He had an efficient 29, 8 boards, 2 steals, some assists. What team that has a first to give is going to give up a first for Kawhi? Because he's probably not coming off the bench. Like, it's not as easy. I wish it were, but that's not how that shit goes. And you also have to match a salary. You have to trade Kawhi, which thankfully, the thing the Clippers do have going for them, should they look at trading Kawhi Leonard, is that he's not under the max. He's at $50 million next year and $50 million in 26-27. So I'm just not sure what GM. Cato's saying Valanciunas. No, he's on the bench for the Kings. Why would the guy on the bench for the Kings be the starting center for the Clippers? That's insane. Zoo also makes $19 million a year. He makes no money. So Miles Johnson bringing up a good point. If the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is getting OKC in a 1-8 matchup, I'm over this season. That's such a rotten outcome for all the hard work the guys are giving this season. What did you expect in the beginning of the year, I guess? I'm not trying to sound like a dickhead, but every team works incredibly hard all season. And this is part of the issue is you have to work so hard because Kawhi is out. So, like, I don't know what that is the pot of gold at the end. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is maybe getting out of the first round. Just go back and look at your expectations for the team when the season started. I'm not trying to be rude, but like, who thought this team was a contender? Cato's saying it's more about the right fit. I don't think Valanciunas, who is horrible at defense and spotty from 3, is the right fit. That's not like what we want. A stretch 5 all of a sudden. A team that's never played with a stretch 5 needs a stretch 5. Okay, I like this. The Sixers might want Kawhi for the first they're getting. All right. Okay. All right. I'm on board with this. Luis, I'm on board with this idea. Let's just if we can fleece the Sixers again, I'm all for it. But I don't know. This team is basically a 500 team in terms of like the makeup of it and everything like that. And that's what we see. We see sometimes they're a 750 team, Sometimes they're a 350 team. That's what happens when you're a 500 team. This loss tonight also hurts. This loss tonight sucks ass. We lost to evil goatee Zion, which who let him get the goatee? Who let that happen? They had 7 guys in double digits tonight. The bench is just brutal. The bench is difficult to deal with. So the coaching change thing, I don't know if that's happening. And I think that for a couple reasons. I'm not against this idea, Cato. Also, thank you all for hanging out. Usually there's 3 of us. Adam Oslin's over on Clippers Talk. Will Updike is unavoidably detained. The coaching thing is interesting. Because in my head, I'm wondering, does Ty Lue want to do the exact same thing next year? Because what we're shaping up for is the exact same thing next year. You can call me crazy if you want, but the roster isn't changing that much. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Lawrence Frank basically told the fans this is how GMs do. Great point, Center JR. Great point. Over 20 second chance points. Getting murked on the offensive boards. I don't think there's a coaching change unless the Clippers do like a big, heavy rebuild. Remember when Ty Lue was in Cleveland and they were like, we want you to lose games so we can get a good draft pick? And he said no. And then they just like fired him basically. Ty Lue doesn't want to tank. So I think there's at least one more year of Ty Lue. I know he signed a contract extension. As we know, a lot of those things don't mean shit. But I think Ty Lue's staying to try and maximize whatever roster he can. And next year, do you want a first-time head coach coaching the same squad next year? Like, we look at the contracts. I know y'all can hear my loud-ass typing, which someone pointed out on the YouTube. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm sorry I typed loud. 25-26, the only people who aren't under contract after 25-26 are Amir, Patty Mills, and Ben Simmons. This is effectively the same team. James Harden has a player option 25-26, which I think he opts in. Oh, shit! Hold on. Let me get the headphones ready. Oh! 1 second, y'all. Funnily enough, y'all were talking shit on Adam, and now he's here. Adam Osland, you got people talking crazy in the chat.
Oh, yeah? What'd they say? I keep receipts.
How are you doing? Cato said, you're smarter than Adam. He calls anyone who disagrees with him losers and idiots.
Good luck finding me ever doing that.
How you feeling after
You may
this
feel
loss?
like one sometimes, but look, this is one of the worst losses of the season. It's pretty inexcusable, inconsistent play from the Clippers. They were incredibly bad with having any semblance of consistency on the offensive end, where Ivica Zubac gets one shot in his first 10 minutes. Kawhi's the only one that's scoring out there in the first quarter. He had 9 points. Everybody else had 2. There were like 8 guys with 2 points. He comes off the floor. They immediately go into, I think, almost 4 minutes of scoreless basketball without getting a field goal until Amir Coffey hit a shot in the first quarter. So now you're down, I want to say, 7 after the first. They get down by 21 due to the bench and Kawhi still not working in the second quarter. They make a run. They get it to within 10 at the half. And they actually started playing through Ivica Zubac to start the second half, and their offense clicked in, and they scored 39 points. They were great.
Brian Siemens said it, right? He said they're playing through Zoo, and it's working.
It's crazy how that happens, because it's pretty easy basketball when you have a good passer out of the post who's getting doubled all the time, and he's finding Kawhi in a slot cut, Chris Dunn cutting to the basket, They're getting easy layups off of playing through Ivica Zubac. Being doubled is not a bad thing. It means somebody's open. It means it's kind of on you if you aren't taking advantage of those opportunities enough. So that was frustrating to see out there. Them putting up 39 in the third quarter and only winning that quarter by 2 points because those Trey Murphy back-to-back threes and then the CJ McCollum three-pointer, that was brutal.
Yeah.
That's probably the game right there. But they still had chances, even getting down by 17 with Kawhi not taking a shot till like the 6.5 minute mark of the fourth quarter. The first 3 shots, I think, were by DJ, Amir,
Oh, the fourth?
and Bogey to start the fourth quarter. Not Kawhi, not Zoo, DJ, Amir, and Bogey.
Oh, no. The first shots of the fourth quarter, if you're talking just the fourth, Derek Jones misses a three.
DJ.
Derek Jones misses a three. Coffee
DJ, Amir, and Bogey.
Bogdan misses a
That's what I just said.
Coffee. No, I know. Coffee finally gets one to hit.
After they're down 15 after the timeout.
Dude, it's crazy.
Kawhi does not take a shot till 6.5 minute mark. And it goes in and out on a mid-range shot. And then
is that a Kawhi passiveness issue?
I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it to see if he was asking for the basketball or if they were just, taking what the defense was giving them. But that was a terrible stretch right there. Again, Kawhi and Ivica Zubac are out there, and they're not the ones taking the shots to start the fourth quarter. But then you still have a chance, and you miss 3 free throws. They had missed 1 all game, and then in the final 2 minutes of the game, they missed 3 by 3 separate players. It's just confounding.
The free throw shit I had an old coach that used to say, they're free throws. They're free. Make that, we talked about this. They dodged a bullet against the Kings with how many free throws they missed. What, they missed 10 in that Kings game? This is a team, the things that are out of whack right now, which is difficult, is stars being hot when they need to be hot, and somehow the free throw shooting, which is the last thing that needs to be a gamble for this Clippers team.
The free throw shooting in clutch moments has been an issue since game 1, since they blew that 9-point lead against Phoenix at Intuit Dome in the first ever game played there with 3 minutes left. It has been an issue from the beginning, but it was DJ, Kawhi, and Ivica Zubac all going 1 of 2. And if they all make those, you could say the game's tied at 119, and who knows what happens. But
sure,
I don't know. They weren't good enough. I didn't like the defensive intensity from the get-go. I felt like they let New Orleans get comfortable. Some of those threes were extraordinary from them, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, so that's kind of, they shot their, Justin Rousseau, our favorite French-Canadian reporter, put it out. This is their 3rd best shooting night from 3 in franchise history.
They didn't take a ton, but they hit 55% of their threes. And this was their best percentage this season. And Jose Alvarado has had a game where he went 7 of 7 this year from 3. So it's okay, he did go 4 or 5, and I thought that was a total.
But that's one game. You know what I'm saying?
He's a 38% three-point shooter. It's not that crazy.
Okay.
But
yeah,
the Trey Murphy 30-footer after he just hit one in the third quarter from straight away was insane. And some of them were well contested. It's just frustrating. But the last 4 games, teams shot 28% against the Clippers from 3. So everybody's saying this always happens against us. Last 4 games, it didn't. Anyways, I'm going to head out, Chuck.
Yeah.
I'm too frustrated.
Hey, appreciate you. Thank you for the good work. Go watch Adam.
Good word.
Talk. Here's to a win tomorrow.
Yes, they have to win. And remember how we talked about why not save Kawhi from Miami? It's I think the Pelicans, that's the team you needed Kawhi. Unfortunately, Kawhi is 29 and you still lose the game.
Brutal.
Hey, man.
All right. I'll see you Wednesday, big dog. Whew. Man, this was a rough run. Also, yeah, Andre Mack, chill in the comments, my man. That's wild as hell. So Chris G, I'm gonna get out of here in a couple minutes. Oh nope, not that. Chris G saying this is just who we are. Best to expect less. Will feel better. You look at this Clippers team, and this is a team that is a couple games better than a 500 team. When you're a couple games better than 500, sometimes you play at 750, sometimes you play at 25. That's just how that shit goes. We got some people making up in the chat. I appreciate that. Sound off where you think this game was lost in the chat. I love what Adam said about the defense. I just like, man, this is when the Clippers need it. Just straight up from a conference standpoint. I also think this is maybe the first live stream chat where two people have settled their differences peacefully. So thank you for that, Cato and Andre Mack. Hope you guys are doing good. We wasted a great Kawhi game. They didn't go to Zoo enough. Like, I don't know, man. The free throws thing, thank you, Metal Slug. I said this as a joke on the last episode with Adam, Will, and I, but like, can they just put more practice sliders up on the free throws? Like, can we put a little more weekly practice time up on the free throws? Because they've been bad. That Kings game was almost a damn nightmare, kind of because of the free throws. It didn't feel great, really at all. And that's unfortunate. Healthy players is so key. So, Andre, I'm going to get out of here in a few. I do have to check. Is anyone on the chat Grizz basketball fans? Because they are putting it on Idaho right now. The men are about to make the Big Sky tournament. The Lady Grizz already did. I know you guys didn't come here to listen about this, but I'm going to talk about it. Healthy players is key. Healthy players makes it so that Dunn doesn't shoot 11 times. It makes it so Nick Batum doesn't have to play 28 minutes as a starter. It makes it so James Harden has an easier time bringing the ball up. The healthy team thing, and I have been covering this team. I've loved this team for a very long time. This is my 8th season covering this team between Locked On Clips and Clips and Dip. We've been through this so many times. We've been through, well, if everyone's healthy, things will be great. Nobody's ever healthy. It just, and pardon my French, it just kind of fucking sucks sometimes. Shout out Honor Mac. Blessings to everybody in the chat also. Thank you for hanging out. I don't know. It's a frustrating loss, and it's okay to be frustrated. They got the Heat tomorrow. I got a couple more minutes before I head out. They need the damn Heat win tomorrow. Like, this is... yes, Andre Mack, thank you. Yeah, I mean, honestly, they need the 420 club. Norm Harden, Zoo, and Kawhi did score 20 at one point, I believe. It was the first time the 420 club met in like 5 years. So we definitely need the 420 club. Not against the Heat, because Harden's not going to play and Norm's not going to play, but 80 points from those guys, that's where we're at. I think the Heat, purely candid live moment, I've had a couple drinks. I think the Heat maybe beat the shit out of the Clippers tomorrow. And I hope not. I hope that doesn't happen. But, like, the signs point to it, right? Like, so Adam Oslin also doesn't believe in curses. But it's difficult when the worst person in the world, one of the worst people in the world, was the owner before the Clippers. If those of you who are unfamiliar with Donald Sterling, the reason that rent control exists is because of how bad of and predatory an apartment owner Donald Sterling was. That's the only reason rent control exists. He was such a piece of shit person, and maybe we're getting cursed for that. Mike saying Clippers is like a freaking roller coaster. Welcome to the roller coaster, because it is usually down, but when those ups are very high, and then shit goes bad. Yeah, so Andre Mack, good point. Heat are in a very weird spot, which is difficult for the Clips, right? Like, we're playing a team that, so we did our last episode. They're like average since the All-Star break. They're above average in net rating. They're not crazy, but like the last time the Clippers beat them, they didn't have Bam Adebayo, who is obviously a game changer for the Heat. Like tomorrow is going to be a nightmare, I think. Even if they win, tomorrow's going to be a nightmare. Harden played, 40 minutes? 40 minutes tonight. We're going to need, and I love the Clippers. Yeah, Scott Tran, thank you. You know the horrible history. The reason there's a salary for limit is because of Sterling. One of the most detrimental owners in the history of the NBA. Just, the man used to save ankle tape. Donald Sterling used to go to the trainers and wrap up the used ankle tape and say, we can use this shit. You can't win a team when that happens. But we're not here to dwell on the past. We're here to look at the future, which is tomorrow against the Heat. And who does that seem like it might be rough? I don't know. I'm going to head out. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. Here's to a fucking win tomorrow. The Clippers need it. Just a heads up. The Clippers schedule, if we want to talk about it, after this Heat game, they play the Hawks on the 14th, and they're back home against the Hornets on Sunday. That's a winnable game. I don't know. Terrence Mann's probably going to have a crazy revenge game. There's a lot of shit going on. Thank you to everyone for hanging out. I am going to go have a drink. I have to work very early in the morning tomorrow. Weird random plug. If you're in Los Angeles and you want something to do on Sunday, La Brea Tar Pits is free. It's free museum day. There's a bunch of museums in SoCal that are going to be free. Go to the Broad. Go to La Brea Tar Pits. Could be a good time. Thank you all for hanging out. Shout out Andre and shout out Cato for handling their differences. Thank you to Adam Osmond for coming through. We are going to have a full tripod pod most likely on Thursday. If not Thursday, we'll have one on Saturday. Thank you all for hanging out. I love this. Metal Gear Solid 26 said it best. Chin up, everybody. This is what you signed up for if you were a Clippers fan. It's time to get some. Let's hope that Harden has another 50-point game. Okay. Mike, you got me on this one. And they would all come in the first half. That's a very funny bit. Thank you to everyone for hanging out. Here's to a win tomorrow. Here's to a more fun stream next time. Let's go Clippers.